All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I'm going to get into today, I think, is what I'm going to call life. A lot of times is based around mood swings. And I used to goof around years ago and say that I was moody. And I think to a certain point I was kind of moody. But I had no problem saying that. And, but I am going to say this, though. I was very good, I think, at kind of playing off other people's moods. And I think being around a large Italian family and being around a lot of people at times, you kind of got to figure everybody out because you never know what mood you're stepping into with other people. It's crazy. You go to a family doing or be around a lot of family members that are Italian, and if you've ever been around them, especially loud ones or very aggressive ones, one minute you could be laughing, the next minute you could be screaming, the next minute there's a beef. I mean, it's very similar if you've seen, obviously, Goodfellas with Pesci's character, where one minute they're all goofing around laughing, and then he flips it and turns it upside down, and then he's asking them, why do you think I'm so funny? And, it's to grow up in that environment especially the men, you don't know sometimes if you're going to say something that offends somebody, aggravate them. Is it a joke? How far is the joke going to go? Am I saying something that's embarrassing you or them? Are they going to take it with a grain of salt? And also, I should say too, is, kind of figuring out what moods that I was going to be in around that. Because sometimes I'd realize that I wasn't always in the best mood myself when dealing with people. And that's one thing I was very, again, able to understand about myself. I'm in a bad mood or I'm in a good mood or whatever. I knew where I stood, right? I even tell people, listen, you don't want to bother with me today. Get away, whatever. Get out of here, whatever. But I think, we really got to realize that sometimes our moods are full of shit. And you can't base a lot of your life around your moods. You really can't. Because a lot of times I get it, we're not in the mood to do certain things. We're not in the mood to go to certain places. We're not in the mood to talk. We're not in the mood to do a certain type of job. We're not in the mood, whatever the case may be. One thing I realized is a lot of times when I wasn't in the mood, but I still kind of pushed through things, those were kind of when I accomplished the most. Because if you've ever created something, especially something like really big, like when I was making my films, I mean, there was so many days, hundreds of days. I was like, oh my God, can I go through this another day? It was so interesting because the one thing I always wanted to do was make a film. And then when I got into making a film, and it was an independent film, guerrilla style, for a few years between shooting it and editing it, it was like as much as I wanted it, it exhausted me. So it's very confusing sometimes to want something so bad and desire it. And then you start creating it, but then you realize how complicated it is. So you're almost mad at yourself at all times. Like you're moody towards yourself. You're like, you built this, you wanted this. Now you don't want it? Well, of course I want it. Well, let's go. All right, let's go. Let's do it. I don't care. So it was, you may go through that a lot in your life too, where if your moods slowly but surely are kind of consuming your life though, and I see this, especially during the pandemic, everybody slowly but surely I'm seeing, not everybody, that's ridiculous, a lot of people, including myself, they're in a lot of bad moods. And also, I think they feel restricted, like a lot of things they want to do, even for fun, they don't do because they don't think they're going to enjoy the experience, especially if they got to wear a mask, right? Or even if it's work related, they think it's a waste of time. They don't know what the future is going to be. Like, I'm going to put all this time and effort into something, and then in a year, or a year, a month, whatever the case, are they going to shut it down? What's the economy going to be like? What type of recession are we heading in? Like the mood is definitely not uplifting. And it's quite interesting because I was looking at my last year Facebook, and it keeps posting shit I was doing because I used to travel all the time and all the places I was going to from, it's kind of like regular, but I even went to I went to Hawaii, for instance, and a lot of other places, a lot of cool places. I'm always in Manhattan in California, and I was all over Canada again, some beautiful spots. And I'm looking at this going, what a difference from last year to this year. And even last year, I realized a lot of my moods, I'm sure when I was traveling, were miserable. I'm like, oh my God, I got to catch 3 flights today, or I got to do this or that. Now that I look back at it, I'm like, that was incredible. Right now, as far as just having the freedom of not wearing a mask, being able to fly wherever I want, go do whatever I want, whenever I want, what a different world that was. And sometimes I think we're moody just to be moody. I think it's almost like it becomes a part of our identity. And I'm here to tell you, though, if you're a moody person and you kind of find yourself alone a lot of times or just not with a lot of friends or whatever, it's kind of on you. And, I don't think I think a lot of people recognize other people's moods and their attitude, and they don't look at their own. But the truth is, man, just like pay attention to your moods, because sometimes they can really start to take over your life. I mean, really take over, where before you know it, you're just somebody who's just always miserable. Now, there's also the flip side to that as well, which is being in a good mood all the time. I do, though, think sometimes when I see a lot of people that are always pretending they're in a good mood or on the positive upbeat, which is wonderful, keep going, just make sure, in my opinion, you don't come off phony and over the top a little, because you can kind of read right through that shit. And that doesn't mean not to be, whatever, happy and all that. Be as happy as you can for as long as you can and stuff. But you also got to realize, too, if you're always in a good mood and you run across people that are sometimes in a bad mood, I get you want to try to be uplifting, and it's great. I say give it a shot. But when they're not uplifted, I guess you could say, just kind of also have the patience to deal with them, because you never know what somebody else is going through. And, no one lives anybody else's life, so I always just think about that. And I think with especially social media to a certain degree, I think it kind of goes to the extreme lately a lot of times. I think now you can't bullshit about your lifestyle. If you were somebody who was always saying that you're living this incredible lifestyle, and I get a lot of people lost their jobs, lost money, especially during the pandemic and stuff, and of course your life's going to change. But it's kind of the way I used to see people on social media and then how I would see them in their real life were two kind of totally different identities. And I think a lot of times you could see that with photos. People are always smiling, and then the next time when you're with them, they're always frowning, which I always found quite interesting, because some of the people that display having the most incredible lives on Facebook, I say, wow, they're the most miserablest. And then a lot of people that didn't even get caught up in social media, that I'm not saying they were miserable, they were just living their life. They lived some of the best lives. They didn't have to promote it or expose it to a certain degree, which I always found quite interesting. But anyways, just pay attention to your moods and don't get consumed in them, and realize, and I discuss this too a lot of times with moods, especially with fitness. You may wake up in the morning, like a lot of people, especially if you're middle-aged or older, and just be like, oh shit, another day. Your mood almost starts off like that. I try to tell people, try and think when you wake up, you're healthy, you're strong, right? But don't think the mood you're in now is going to be the mood you're going to be in an hour, 5 hours, the next day, the next week. And it's hard sometimes, because when you're in a bad mood and shit ain't going your way, you start to feel like, this is how I'm going to feel forever. And I've been there, believe me. Yeah, and especially if you're starting to become very moody, or very miserable, I should say, and a lot of things are not going your way. Like if you own a business right now during the pandemic, let's say, for instance, and you're either going out of business or you're losing business. I mean, there's no way I'm going to sit here and tell you to be in a good mood. I would be an asshole to do that. But I think for us to survive, just in general, we have to understand, hopefully in the future, we're not going to be in this mood. And I think it's almost unhealthy to always be in a bad mood. And I don't know what it was, but I had anger issues when I was younger. To this day, I have no idea, because I had an incredible childhood. I mean, at times me and my mother didn't have a lot, but I had an incredible family on both sides of my family, even my step-parents' family. I look back and I lived an unbelievable life. I will not boo-hoo my life at all. I couldn't be more fortunate for me. But for some reason, in my late teens and my early 20s, I just had a super bad attitude. And I think because I was just a bitch. I think talk about moods. If it didn't go my way, then I was in a bad mood, which was ridiculous. But what about everybody else's way? I didn't really care about anybody else, like how their day was, or anybody else. I just consumed into what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, when I wanted to do it, or where, all these things. And it was a boo-hoo fest. I needed to grow up. So anyways, you may find yourself in those positions too, where you just, kind of like just address your moods, right? And especially if you're going to go out and meet people. And this is the one thing I'm going to wrap it up with that really aggravates me sometimes. I'm not telling you to be a phony. But if you go out and meet people for lunch, dinner, or whatever, especially friends, family members, or go to a party, and you're miserable, and you make it a statement, I guess, or make it known to everybody that you're miserable and you're looking at like for attention regarding that and all that, I think you're a jagoff. I'm just telling you. I think I'm not telling you to be a fake when you get there, and I'm not telling you to be happy-go-lucky and pretend like nothing's wrong. But I do think there's a respect when you're around people and you don't make them feel uncomfortable. And I've been around a lot of people. You go meet up with them for dinner, you go to their house, or whatever the case may be. You get there, and they're just treating you like an asshole. Now, that doesn't mean they personally are mad at you or anything else, but I do think you got to realize your behavior and take accountability for it and have respect for other people. And again, just because you're having a bad day, I get it, other people may not be. That doesn't mean you should ruin the party or ruin the environment and just have a bad attitude a lot of times too, or try to disrupt or just kind of make something miserable that doesn't need to be miserable just to make a statement, because that shit really pisses me off. Now, do whatever you want to do, but if you are somebody who keeps doing that, I think you should pay attention, because that's not fair to anybody else. If you're miserable, don't even go. You're better off. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my YouTube channel. It's Rich CELENZA. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And what else? Just go to my website if you want to know more about me, richcelenza.com. You got any questions or comments, hit me up. All right? Take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.